Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Visionary Leaders podcast. I'm Aisha Harley, and I'm thrilled to be your host of today's call. We gather live every Monday at 10 a.m. Pacific time for enlightening conversations about wellness, essential oils, and everything doTERRA. In case you miss any episodes, you can find us on YouTube, Apple, or Spotify. The best way to stay connected with us is to opt into our newsletter and text reminder at hellovisionary.life. And if you feel inclined to leave us a review, we super appreciate it. Today, we are excited to have Ariana Harley join us with her esteemed healthcare practitioners, Louise Rose, naturopathic doctor, Mica Carew, naturopathic doctor and licensed acupuncturist, and Will LA.c, licensed acupuncturist. Together, they will guide us through an insightful exploration of lemongrass, the oil of cleansing, covering its physical, emotional, and energetic applications. Ariana, over to you.
Good morning, everyone, or good evening, depending on where you are in the world. I am delighted, as always, to be here. I just have so much fun working with these plants. And what I love is that there's always more to learn. If you haven't already, and you do have lemongrass, please grab it. Or if you're listening to this, not at the live recording, grab your lemongrass and experience it. I feel that the knowledge becomes even more kinesthetic and cellular when we're actually having experience of something. So when we're smelling it, we're feeling it. You could taste lemongrass if you want. You could put a little drop. Let's go ahead and do that right on the tip of your tongue. And so then you're immersed in lemongrass as you're learning about it too. It's spicy. If you do a tip of the tongue, you might need a little glass of water because it's a bit spicy. So I am going to start off by just passing the mic over. Dr. Louise is going to talk to us about how we use lemongrass in the physical. And we say this on every call, but we break these calls down for body, mind, and spirit because I think it sounds very poetic. And having said that, we know that there really is no separation between the physical and the emotional. It's all interconnected, but that's just a way that we like to break our calls down. So Dr. Louise, why don't we just dive right into lemongrass?
Beautiful. Thank you, Ariana and lemongrass, for being here with us today. Oh boy. Well, one of the things that I want to say right off the bat is I found it interesting that when I initially started looking into the qualities of lemongrass that I wanted to share with you, I was surprised to realize that it has the quality of being cooling for our bodies and has been used for many, many years to bring down like fevers and that sort of heat of inflammation. And I was like, wow, that is so interesting because when I use lemongrass on my skin, it feels stimulating and circulating and like it's bringing heat to my body. And so I'm really can't wait to hear what the other practitioners have to say about this. But my take on this is that it's partly that lemony fragrance that is venting our heat. It's bringing that heat to the surface and allowing our bodies and our minds and our energetic bodies to actually release that that heat. So that's how I feel it opening up and circulating and basically opening our all our little vents in our bodies. So what a great oil for July.
Louise, if I could just speak to that, I also I know that lemongrass is really phenomenal for arthritis, and so I have used it. I experience it very different than peppermint, which when we would do spinal treatments, I would get really cold after using peppermint. And so I also experienced it as warming, so I'd always add lemongrass to that as well. So I'm excited to, I bet will have some, hopefully have some information, and Dr. Mica too, about that combination of different elements of cooling and warming. So I'll hand the mic back to you, but I just think that's a really great conversation to dive into too.
Yeah. Will and Mica, do you guys want to jump in now or just wait and talk later?
I'll just wait and talk later. I just got all my computer glitches out of the way. Can you hear me?
Perfect. Yep. Gotcha. Awesome. So it's cooling and great for that kind of excess heat, inflammation. And like Ariana said, it's really great for the aching joints and muscles. I use lemongrass a lot in my practice. It's one of the oils that I use on as a spinal treatment for almost every patient. It's you know, to be blunt, it's a really affordable way to get really good results on a lot of different levels for people. It's going to, it's very supportive for any sort of microbial overload or imbalance that we might have. So using it in this on the spinal treatment is going to help overall help the immune system with that balance of microbes. We use it in digestive health quite a bit for that same reason, for balancing the microbes. Like, you know, we really have a very diverse ecosystem in our digestive tract, and we don't want to just clear out everything, but we want the population to be thriving and healthy and supportive and be able to control the more pathological microbes. So lemongrass can be really supportive internally for digestive health in that way. And a really easy way to get it internally is to use our DDR complex, our DDR prime capsules. So those can be really supportive. And just like with most supplements, I recommend like doing a protocol and then taking a break from it, doing a protocol and taking a break from it, so that we don't just get into a rut of, we want our body to kind of cycle in and out, and we want to be more in tune with what our body needs. So let's see. I think of lemongrass for soft tissue repair, like definitely ligaments and muscles and tendons. So really great for joint pain. It's going to reduce the pain, increase circulation, and decrease inflammation. I have a blend that I use: lemongrass, turmeric, and ginger for a lot of joint stuff. Any sort of chronic head pain, oftentimes that can be kind of an excess tension heat pattern, and I'm sure you'll find later in the presentation that lemongrass is great for discernment and mental clarity as well. So using it along those tight neck muscles, maybe with some marjoram, some frankincense, some petitgrain would be great along those muscles. And then we also know that, so it's this wonderful mix of being like a relaxant and cooling. So it's going to relax both the striated muscle tissue and the smooth muscle tissue. Smooth muscle tissue are things like in your intestines. So if you're having sort of spasmodic crampy digestive stuff, try a capsule of DDR and maybe a castor oil pack with some lemongrass. Let's see, Ariana, you want to go to that next slide with the blends, with the use lemongrass in combination. These are recommendations from Peter Holmes from his book Aromatica, Volume 1. And his recommendation combining lemon and lemongrass and I would add some blue tansy in there for some really maybe achy and inflamed joints in an acute situation. You can combine lemongrass and Litzia. I think that one is for digestive complaints, muscle aches and pains. Lemongrass works great with marjoram, copaiba, and then maybe layering like a mint, like a super mint or deep blue on top of that to drive it into the system. That's a really common one that I'll use with my patients for any sort of active joint pain. Combining lemongrass with juniper berry for detoxification and clove for any sort of gastrointestinal dysbiosis. Combining it with geranium for any antifungal effect, or tea tree oil as well. Lemongrass is a great one to boost for our insect and bug season that we're in. You can just add a few extra drops to the TerraShield or make up your own blend, or just keep an extra bottle of lemongrass around. It's high in citral.
I can just add to that, Louise, that I know that there's some people who aren't, bug repellent smells aren't everyone's favorite, right? So I know that with our TerraShield, it is such a phenomenal blend, and I really want to emphasize the importance of not putting toxins and pesticides on our body. Like, that is just so bad for our brains and our body and our environment and everything. And so add lemongrass. If you're not fond of the TerraShield, add a lot more lemongrass and it will kind of change the scent. And I feel like lemongrass is a really nice smell. It's associated with yummy food. So it doesn't come across as much of bug repellent as some of the other smells. So I just wanted to say if that's a sensitivity for you and you want to get the natural bug repellent, but it's like, oh, but the smell, go that route. And you can add a little geranium too. And that, you can offset with having a nice bug repellent perfume.
I agree. It's a wonderful fragrance, and I actually like to use cedarwood and lemongrass together, often for my pets. So, like for flea season and tick season, I'll just put some on my hands, and then let the pet smell it to make sure they're not averse to it, and then I'll just pet their bodies with it, and that's a wonderful natural insect repellent for the pets. And then lastly, I want to recommend, it's a delicious addition, just a drop to your bone broth. Add a little coconut milk and 1 drop of lemongrass to your cup of bone broth in the morning, and you have just an amazing, delicious, healthy treat. And then I oftentimes will use a drop with or without pink pepper in my salad dressings for when I'm mixing up a salad dressing. So that's how I use lemongrass, and I'm looking forward to hearing everybody else's contributions. Thank you.
Ooh, I have something to add with, Will, I'm not sure if this was going to be part of yours, but for the smooth muscle tissue, sprains and strains, there's a great combination that I've used, and maybe I got it from Will. Aroma Touch, lemongrass, and deep blue. Layering it, I have used that on ankle strains and sprains, knee problems, So anyway, Aroma Touch lemongrass in deep blue, and I would just layer it on before and after my workout, before and after, or during a painful period. Aroma Touch lemongrass in deep blue.
I love that. I always add it to my muscular blends. Like, it just works so well. I was trying to pull up your screen, but it had a little technical complications. But thank you, Mica. Well, let's move on to the emotional uses of lemongrass. And I do want to speak to, before I do that, I'm just gonna, if you are with us and joining us and seeing the visual that we're displaying, I'm going to read it. So if you don't have eyes on that, you can know this information. I think it's always wonderful to slow down in life and really contemplate the energy and the just kind of having reverence for all of the ways we are blessed and all of the abundance that we have. So if you're holding a bottle of lemongrass, or you use a bottle of lemongrass, you have 3 pounds of lemongrass in your hands. And that's what it takes to make 1 bottle of lemongrass essential oil. And 3 pounds is a lot of lemongrass. So, you know, it's just that reverence and just a moment of gratitude for the farmers, for the earth, for the plant, for all that goes in to make this amazing oil that we're using. Also, I want to encourage people, we work to try to be compliant here on these calls, but every time I do these calls, I have books with published research about essential oils, and every time I look again, I am always like even more inspired. Like, I'm like, oh, these plants, you know, there are 400 published studies about the benefits of lemongrass. And then there's 14 on human clinical trials. So that's really phenomenal. And also it's really wonderful to know, you know, there's still some people out there that, because plant medicine isn't familiar for them, and because, you know, there's just an emphasis on pharmacological medication, it's like, hey, there's research, and this is chemistry, and there is lots of information that this is amazing stuff. So I just wanted to give a plug for that. So coming back to the emotional uses, I invite you again to smell lemongrass. And before we talk about the emotional uses, if you want to just type into the chat, what do you notice? What do you feel when you smell it? Do you get more in your body? Do you get more in your mind? What is your experience? And for me, I definitely, even though we have learned that lemongrass is cooling, I get warmth. I think I associate it. My friend used to make this amazing Thai soup with lemongrass, and I just think of that bowl of soup every time I smell lemongrass, and my mouth waters. My mouth was watering when Louise was talking about the bone broth and lemongrass. And that's a really pleasant feeling. It feels nourishing to me. When we use lemongrass, it's going to be uplifting and calming. So that might feel like a juxtaposition to you, but that's the complexity of these essential oils. It is stimulating to the mind, it is clearing, and yet it is calming in that it helps us to center. It helps us to calm our parasympathetic system down and be in our bodies. And yet it is wonderful for any heavy mood, any dark, depressive states. I would bring in lemongrass. It supports optimism. It supports focus. It's wonderful for studying. It is really, really great to help move unproductive and stuck emotions. If you're doing any therapy or counseling, bring in lemongrass, because what it can help do is it can help transmute past negative experiences. And so if we're working on some old stuff that are like these enneagrams in our brains that we we kind of revert back to, of like an example would be, you know, perhaps you have an association with something that scared you as a child, or just something that was very hard to get through, and that's creating that image for you today. Like you still, I'm not articulating very well, but if you, it's like you're carrying the baggage, you know, it's like, oh, that feeling comes back again when my partner does this. And it reminds me of my mom when I was 5 or something, right? Bring in lemongrass, like let's move that stuff out. It's a really great to use in time of any time of mental fogginess, confusion, disorientation, disorganization. So if you haven't gathered it already, transitions. If I would bring in lemongrass not only to cleanse the space in a new home, but to, if you're moving, if you're going through a major life transition, lemongrass is going to be your friend. And I'm really excited to hear what Dr. Mica has to say. She's going to talk about the energetic and spiritual uses of lemongrass, and we'll see if she has more to add on some of these subjects.
I was trying to get what Rebecca said. She said she was repelled, and I missed the chat, but she was repelled by it, and now she uses it. Chat. Oh, there we go. I literally used to be totally repelled by lemongrass. I'm happy to report that I have gotten it through it. And although it is not my favorite, I can see and feel how these things are true. What I'm finding is clearing my current fog. Maybe that's why it's helpful for me now, because I have so much change. Yeah. Thanks for sharing. Aisha says so nourishing. Sounds so nourishing. Oh, your bone broth, I think. Yes. Okay. Lemongrass. So I want to just go through how I do this. I do it at night. I know that a lot of you might already know this, but so I sit with the lemongrass or whatever oil we're going to do, and I meditate with that. And then I wake up in the middle of the night and it's by my bedside. And because then I have nothing going on, right? I'm just open to receive information. And then I put a little bit on my palm of my hands and taste it again, waft it over me, and then just fall right back to sleep. And I'm saying that because I really thought, and I even told Will this, oh my gosh, I hope when I do that process, it doesn't keep me up. Because it seems like it would be really, it seems spicy to me. It seemed moving to me, which is so interesting because there's this beautiful synergy of the movement and also the calming at the same time. And so that's what happened in the middle of the night. I felt I had this. So try it. If you wake up in the middle of the night, put a little drop on the palm of your hand and then just waft it over your body and feel how it almost like brings you more home to yourself and calming. And it was just a beautiful experience. I didn't roll over and write down what I got in that moment, but oh, I know what it was. Euphoric. I was so euphoric in the middle of the night with lemongrass and also calm, very calm, and felt very supported. And so what I got with lemongrass is uplifting, oil of clarity, oil of integrity. I had this visual of the lemongrass elongating my spine and saying, I've got you. You stay in alignment with yourself, even if there's chaos going on around you. It's a good oil for staying in alignment with yourself. Oil of precision, oil of alignment with self, oil of a strong spine, or if you need a strong spine, or if you feel collapsed physically, like if you're low energy or you're going through sickness, use lemongrass. Use lemongrass on the bottom of your feet. If you feel collapsed emotionally, use lemongrass. If you feel spiritually just not in alignment with yourself, use lemongrass. Oil of purpose, oil of cleanliness. Now, Ariana, I don't know if you got my little thing that I sent you about doing healing codes with this. We can do it. This is a perfect oil to do with the healing codes, because how Ariana said transmute past patterns, and how she was describing that, I call that when you go, wow, this really reminds me, I'm triggered. This really reminds me of my mom, and my husband's doing it, or something like that. And she couldn't figure out the words. I think you just said baggage. I call that overlay, where you're like seeing through a screen, but it's not a clear screen. It's like whatever issue you have with a past person that's being triggered for you in the moment with the person in front of you, but you're seeing through the screen. So I call it an overlay. So, but that's just a word. If you just use the lemongrass, and how I tell people in my Qigong class, how we start classes, to put a couple drops on the palm of our hands, rub it, breathe it in 3 times. And we've done this before, but I think it's so important because we have these fields around our body. We extend beyond our physical bodies, and we're clearing our fields. So we're clearing anything. We're clearing the overlays. Thanks, Ariana. We're clearing any, I call it congestion, emotional congestion, physical congestion, energetic congestion. But when I started working with lemongrass, I also use the healing codes. It's this book. And you can just, but here it is. This is all you need to have. You don't need to purchase the book. So what you do is and this is a great one because it's so precise. So if you want to clear something and you're very clear of what you want to clear, or what you're having, what you want to transmute, a pattern that you want to transmute, I often use the healing codes. And I thought we could do this right now. Thank you, Julie Conachero. She scrunched, Dr. Julie Conachero, she scrunched all this onto one page. So you want to do it? Okay. So you place little lemongrass on the tips of your fingers. Just have it. And if you don't have an issue, think of one or any. So here we go. So I pray that all known and unknown negative images, unhealthy beliefs, destructive cellular memories, and all physical issues related to, so that could be like related to a health problem, a mental emotional situation you're going through, a spiritual thing you want to move through. You just say it right there. Would be found, opened, and healed by filling me with the light, life, and love of the divine. I say the divine. I also pray that the effectiveness of this healing be increased by 100 times or more. So this tells the body to make the healing a priority. So you think of the earliest, so this is perfect, Ariana, right? You think of the earliest memory of this issue. And if it doesn't come up, it doesn't come up. It's okay, it still works. Allow the healing code experience to heal all the way back to that experience. Isn't that so great? So, and then we go like this. You place your fingertips, because we already have the lemongrass on our fingertips. If you need to use more, go ahead and use more. And you go to the front of the nose, like where the nose bridge is. And what you're doing is you're changing the story. How do you want your body to feel? How do you want your body to look? How do you want your emotions to be? Because that's the antidote. And then you go to resting, and you can place your hands on your face for resting. Honestly, I don't usually place my hands. I don't do the resting part, which I should probably do. That's part of probably my issue of not slowing down. Do you see the resting pose? Oh yeah, it's right here. That I don't think you cover your eyes. I think you just put it right underneath the cheekbones. Do you see that, Louise, on the upper right? Yeah. And then you go to the Adam's apple. You don't touch it, but you just go right in front of the throat. You can always place more lemongrass. And honestly, so visualize how you want your body to be, or your mental, emotional life to be, or the feeling. And then you can go back to resting. I'll talk to you about it while we're in resting. Is like, honestly, I have no idea how this works, but it just does. So this is one I don't know, but just give it a try for like 30 days or 28 days and your life will change. And then go to the jaws, and you just go right at the jaws. Isn't it great with lemongrass? Visualizing what you want. And then we'll go to resting. The fingers, the hands right underneath the, what are these, cheekbones? And then the temples. Visualizing how you want to feel. And then back to resting. I love tools like this because we all need tools. I need tools. I need simple tools. And I love to use these tools with the essential oils for sure. It's really the essential oils and then an extra tool. So try that out. Take a screenshot of that, because Dr. Julie Conachero consolidated it. It's so easy just to print it out and use it. Otherwise, you're flipping through pages.
It'd be great to just print it out and then have it hanging on your wall so you remember it, right? And I wanted to just speak to to give credit to my mother. I wasn't trying to pick on my mother, but
Oh.
when we were, and what I'm meaning in context is when we go back into those early memories, oftentimes what Dr. Mica said, you know, choose your earliest memory that you can of this condition. So I just encourage you, if you can find something when you're a child, often it's our mother, our father, our siblings, that is when our brain really like makes some ideas of the world. So sometimes it's just like if our emotions weren't responded to, we can make up stories of I'm not good enough. We can make up stories of, you know, my mom just needed to take a phone call, but she's not coming to me when I'm a baby and I'm crying and I don't understand what's happening. And our brain starts formulating these false stories of the world. And so that was what I was speaking to. So that's why often if we can go back to, in my counseling program, a phrase that we use is just like when, like I had this feeling. So right now I'm aggravated because my partner forgot to get milk at the store, right? And I'm getting really irritated, and it brings up I'm just giving an example. It brings up a feeling that he always forgets my needs. He always forgets what I want, right? That would be just like when I was, you know, a kid and I needed to be picked up from school and my mom couldn't come get me because she was doing something else, right? It's not the fault of anyone. It's just that we can make up these beliefs of, oh, I don't matter. I'm not important. My needs don't matter, you know, and that's just our child brain not really understanding. And it starts to really like sink in. And then we go through life believing those things, right? It's this false belief that we have. So that's what I was mentioning. And I love this practice, Dr. Mica, for using that for issues like this. So perfect.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm glad that I could share it. It's one of my best tools, and I never thought of it doing it with lemongrass. It just never came up, but this is such a perfect one to do with lemongrass.
And then
That's what I have.
I
Yeah.
love it. Thank you. I moved us back to our screen, just so we can see one another, because Dr. Will you talk to us about the traditional Chinese uses of lemongrass? And I'm so excited. And I don't know if you have any info, but if you could speak to what, like feeling like lemongrass is warming, but it's associated with being cooling. I'm so curious about that. So maybe you have some insight on that.
Of course, I was just about to talk about that actually. In terms of Chinese medicine perspective, and also the biomedical perspective, where if you have what's in a category of counter irritants like wintergreen, peppermint, the menthol kind of rich oils to camphor, those actually don't decrease any body core temperature. It's not like it's taking a cold plunge, right? It's more where it's stimulating the skin to, by definition, a counter irritant is stimulating the surface layer of the skin to be that icy hot, kind of cold, hot sensation. And again, it's not going to the deeper levels of the body to do any type of cooling. Whereas lemongrass or forsythia we use in Chinese medicine, or even the deepest cold herb, gypsum, goes to different layers of the body. And lemongrass can go to what we call, there's the surface layer, there's the middle layer, and there's the deepest layer. So it can go to a fairly middle layer type of situation. That could mean the chi layer of the body, into the stomach, into the gallbladder, that middle layer, and bring that heat to the surface. So there's this initial phase in Chinese medicine, again, this perspective where lemongrass goes to that qi layer and brings this excess heat, and almost as a carrier or a what we call a guide or particular move, it helps move that and vents that heat to the surface, and then it just vents it out. So that's how it so-called makes things colder on the more interior level, is by actually the herb going to the deeper layer, the qi layer of the body, to bring that excess heat up to the external or superficial layer of the body, to vent out that excess heat, to then cool the body. Whereas like wintergreen, the menthols and the camphor and the peppermint will just stick to the surface layer, that external layer of the body, and so-called vent that heat from the surface layer of the body. And that's from the Chinese medicine perspective. So again, lemongrass, though, is very unique in our perspective. If you again look at where it originated in Southeast Asia, very muggy, tropical, very hot and humid. So lemongrass very much is used not only medicinally, but in culinary purposes. And all the foods, really, lemongrass is basically pretty predominant. So in a way, it's very useful for that type of climate, where it can transform, drain dampness, that kind of muggy, kind of humid environment. It does that in the body by clearing and draining out that dampness. It cools the body more at a core level, versus just, again, sticking at the cooling layer of the surface layer of the skin. I guess also in very similar ways, if you eat like chili peppers here where we are in Colorado, with like the really spicy, hot chili peppers, if you eat that, then it actually cools your body, right? So in a similar response, chili peppers are going, when you consume them and eat them, going to that stomach and helping to bring out that excess heat in that core temperature body, and releasing it out to the surface layer. So lemongrass specifically goes to the stomach. It goes to the lung, the liver, gallbladder channels, and the heart. It's very pungent, of course, very dispersing. It has that bitter quality, which, again, in Chinese medicine, any herb that has bitter is clearing heat. It also helps settle the heart by basically descending any kind of what we call clearing out heat, but descending energy to root or ground your body at the spirit level. It stops pain. And again, this is very unique quality. You think of herbs in Chinese medicine that are cooling, but then help stop pain. So it's like what we call B syndrome, any type of stagnation that's related to dampness, that's related to cold, contracture, that's related to any kind of swelling, etc. It helps to move out that stuckness. So therefore, it moves the qi, moves the qi layer, the body's ability to make movement, and also it moves the body fluid, so it helps promote sweating. Another unique quality with lemongrass that we use is to harmonize what we call the yin and the yang. So we looked at citronella in the previous month. If you want to either relook at that or re-listen to that, it is a fantastic discussion, a very similar, almost I would call it a relative, if not a sibling, lemongrass and citronella, because they both harmonize what is, again, what we all the practitioners here talked about transitions, right? So transition times, whether that be from moving from one space to another, spiritually, even physically, all the stress of moving from one place to another. These transitions, what we call, are like the space between the yin and the yang. So lemongrass really helps to moderate and to support these transition points, to make them more at ease, because in a way, lemongrass has this quality to work in. It's not really a clear yin herb, nor is it a clear yang herb. So it has actually both qualities to be able to really, balance point the body, as much as anything in nature is seeking balance, right? This homeostasis, this homeostatic point. And lemongrass helps to modulate that. So again, if we're more yin at a particular time, it helps to bring balance by bringing it back down. If there's more yang, then the lemongrass can help kind of moderate that back down. Or if it's deficient, it can bring back up the yang. And if it's yin deficient, it brings back up. Again, to find this sort of nice balance point that we're constantly always seeking as beings of this planet, that is innate, right? And lemongrass is just a steward or a helper in our ability to recognize within ourselves this balance point. Right, so that's what I have from a Chinese medicine perspective.
Oh, thank you so much, Will. I always get really excited because I just experienced that. Like if I was to title lemongrass, I was like, it's like the oil of transitions for me. And so it's so fun when you have an experience and then you're like, yeah, in traditional Chinese medicine, this is known as having these properties. And I think it's really amazing when we work with the plants. It's like we can tap into this old information that we've collected as a human species. And then my brain's still catching up to learn it, but my body is like, oh yes, I'm experiencing that just working with the plant, right? It's almost like when we have a friend and we just feel their energy and we're like, oh, that person's very calm, or that person has a very beautiful clarity or whatnot. So thank you so much.
I love, Will, kind of on the same vein as Ariana, but talking about when you said the balance point of lemongrass, like putting words to the experience is so helpful, right? Everyone, here we are, we're experiencing lemongrass and body, mind, and spirit. And then we come together and use words to kind of talk about what we're experiencing. And balance point is a good word to describe, bring you back to balance, but your balance point, your point of being. I mean, these calls could go on for hours with us, just like mentally going to town on the words describing each oil. I mean, that's what we try to do here, right? Balance.
Well, I think too, my belief is there's a need right now for us globally to move out of just black and white thinking, this or that, bad or good, you know, that kind of thinking. And lemongrass is such a great example of that, right? Where I was experiencing it and it's like, yeah, I'm reading about it and it says it's cooling, which I can understand from that moving the deep, deep dampness out. Totally makes sense with like arthritic conditions. And I'm like, but I'm experiencing it as warming. So what's going on, right? And I love that it is this very unique individual and that it is, like you said, Will, yin and yang, right? It has this beautiful complexity to it. And that's so much of life often, right? There's the middle ground, there's the gray area, there's You know, some days we need a little more of this, some days we need a little more of that. So it's so fun. I'm gonna share my screen again with you because I have some really great recipes to share. So let me bring this up and then we will close our call. So on the screen right now is just some ideas for diffusing lemongrass. Listen to this one: spicy and fresh lemongrass, 1 drop of lemongrass, 2 drops of eucalyptus, and 1 drop of cinnamon bark. I love some of these diffuser blends because I wouldn't have thought to pair those, but when I think about that, that sounds really delicious. I think this one sounds, it's called Spring Boost, but I think this sounds phenomenal for summertime. 3 drops of lemongrass, 3 drops of tangerine, and 3 drops of spearmint. I think that would even be really lovely to put on the bottoms of your feet or in like a beautiful iced tea, like to drink that. Yummy. And here's another one I'll share with you. It's called Peace Out. 5 drops of lemongrass, 3 drops of clary sage, and 2 drops of patchouli. We didn't really emphasize this much, but it should be pointed out that lemongrass is phenomenal for cleaning. So you can add it to spray bottles when you're mopping, cleaning countertops. It's a really, really great oil to clean with. I have a Thai chicken recipe that is up here, and we will post that on our Facebook group if you're not looking at our presentation now, if you're just listening to our presentation. But that sounds amazing. You're going to add some lemongrass and with some yummy coconut milk. If you don't eat meat, you could always do this with tofu too, which would be delicious. And then there are 2 recipes that I found that I thought were really great. Urinary tract support. So I know that many people need some support in this area. And so these are some oils and some recommendations. So the Zendocrine Detoxification Blend soft gels, and then lemongrass, juniper berry, lemon, cypress, and geranium. And with those oils, I would think it would be gorgeous to just rub those over the abdomen. And then you could also put those, cypress is great for bladder control. You could also put those in a capsule minus the cypress. And then there's a healthy thyroid blend, and that's 20 drops of frankincense, 20 drops of myrrh, 20 drops of lemongrass, 20 drops of lavender, and 20 drops of peppermint. And you're going to put that in a 10 milliliter roller bottle and mixed with some coconut oil. And then some other ideas. Here's a post-workout nice bath recipe, which is 2 cups of Epsom salts. You're going to add a 1/2 cup of baking soda, 3 drops of frankincense, 2 drops of copaiba, 2 drops of lemongrass, and 1 drop of marjoram. When I read that recipe, I feel like I'm sinking into that bath already. Like I'm just like, oh yes, please. And then if you wanted to make your own dryer sheets, I think this is really cool. I just found this recipe and I never thought of doing this because if you don't know already, dryer sheets are very toxic and full of very toxic chemicals. But I have to say, I stopped using them years ago and I found out about that, but I loved soft clothes and I love clothes that smell good. And so this is a way to get that beautiful scent. You can cut old t-shirts into 24 4-inch squares. Love recycling too and not adding more trash to our world. And then put 10 drops of lavender, 10 drops of lemongrass, and 1 cup of white vinegar. And you're going to mix that into the squares. And I can't read a whole recipe, but I believe I'd imagine you'd maybe let that dry and then put it in the dryer. Mica, can you jump in? Does it tell us anything more about that on there?
It says, yeah, cut the old t-shirts into 24 4-inch squares, place into a glass container. So I think you just keep it into the glass container until you're wet. Yeah. Add the lavender, lemongrass, and vinegar. Swirl to coat all the squares and use as needed. So you have a little container of them. You're set to go. toss
Love
into the dryer load or into bottoms of trash cans to fight odors.
Oh, I'm so excited about this. I was reading it
Oh,
last night, so I obviously haven't done it, but the bottoms of trash cans too, right?
yes.
Compost bins,
Yes, I'm doing it. Thank you.
teenagers' rooms. Um, so those are
Workout bags, workout
workout
bags.
bags. Yeah, exactly. So those are some ways
How
you
about
can.
in your shoes?
Oh yeah, and your
Like you
shoes.
take off your shoes and then you can put those in there.
Yeah,
Let's see, how would that work? Yeah.
anything. It might be a little wet.
Yeah, so I think we'd make a spray.
Yeah, I think a spray would be good for the shoes.
Yeah.
And then the last thing, I don't have a recipe for everyone, but I was just gonna put a plug for lemongrass as far as athlete's feet. It's a really great antifungal. So you could mix this with tea tree and geranium, or you could use arborvitae and lemongrass, but that would be a great foot rub.
Mm.
And then we are getting ready to close. I was going to tell you guys who we are, and then also maybe we have a little bit of time. Just look at the chat, and if you have any questions or any ways you want to share how you've used lemongrass, please look at that. Please type in the chat and we'll look at that. But we are a team of practitioners and essential oil lovers. Dr. Louise Rose is here in Portland, Oregon, and she can be found at rosecabinetmedicine.com. Will, Juan, and Mica are both in Colorado. You can reach Will at eliteacupuncture@gmail.com. Mica, she has a great website if you haven't visited already. It's lineagemedicine.com. And she also has a beautiful book called Plant Spirit Medicine. It's available on her website or on Amazon, and it helps teach her lineage's practice of working and speaking with the plants. And so I can't recommend that enough. And my name is Ariana Harley, and I'm here in Portland, Oregon as well. You could reach me at arianaharley.com is my website.
Thank you, everybody. Such a wonderful call as always. I did want to share Linda's yummy recipe. She likes to poach halibut in coconut milk or cream and bone broth and add 2 drops of lemongrass, ginger, cilantro, and lime. That sounds really good.
Oh, my mouth is watering.
Right. I love that idea. Yeah, the oils are so wonderful to cook with, but just be mindful if you're using them for the first time, less is more. And if you have a really strong oil, you can dip a toothpick in it and then put that in the food and taste it as you go, because sometimes you can overpower a dish with your essential oils as well. So we don't want you to do that on your first try. If there's any other comments, Ariana, will you look to see? I just want to let all of you know that the next 2 weeks we have some really exciting calls. We have our account managers from doTERRA who will be joining us, Kelly and Sydney, and we next week are going to talk about the Refer a Friend program. Now, this program is for everybody. If you're a customer, if you just love to use your oils, there is a way that you can share your referral link and basically earn $599 of doTERRA dollars to get free products. It's super easy. And if you are building a doTERRA business or engaged on that side of it, we are going to also talk about strategy of how to use that in your business. This was something that we talked about in the business training in Portland, and everybody really loved it. So we wanted to bring it to you live and go over that with the account managers. And then the week after that, there's a new program by doTERRA called Power Me. And I'm not going to go too much into it right now, but you'll definitely want to learn how to use that new system to not only empower yourself, or if you're sharing oils with anybody else, it's just making it easier and easier. So please show up next week because we want to give our account managers lots of love and support for taking their time to join us. And it will be super fun to have them live. So if that's everything, please stay cool. In Portland, it's extra hot today. I think we're breaking 100 degrees in Portland. So Ariana made a beautiful, what was in it, your mist bottle? It was peppermint and green mandarin. Spray those oils on the back of your neck. Use them to stay cool. Make sure and hydrate and have a wonderful day. And we'll look forward to seeing you all next week. Bye-bye, everybody.
You want to pour that